The three big algorithms are ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, and Claude. There are almost 1 billion people using one of those three tools weekly. There are only 1.2 billion people that drive cars. So if you're not one of the people that's using at least ChatGPT once a week, you are starting to drift behind.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Aaron, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey guys, it's Erin here with another interview, probably one that you can put in the category of it's about frickin' time. But it's about AI, and I didn't want to just bring on any AI person. I think I found the perfect person to talk to us. His name is Dan Chuparkoff, and he's one of the world's leading experts on AI, innovation, and the future of work. He was a technology leader at several companies, including Google and McKinsey. And now he's known as the understandable technology speaker, which I love because I'm so technological illiterate. And he's going to make us think about and use AI in a less sucky way. So here are some of the things we talked about. We talk about why he dropped out of college and how that actually served him better in the long run. He talks about how AI can be thought of as simply finding small copy paste moments, which I loved. And you'll have to listen to hear more about that. Also, we talked a lot about how leaders, many of you are leaders, should think about using AI to be more efficient in these times when everybody is asked to do less with more, and why sometimes that thought process should involve AI and why sometimes it shouldn't. We also talk about the biggest changes he sees coming in the future with AI. And then he also talks about one company's unique approach that he saw to leveraging all those meeting note takers that seemed to double the meeting sizes, but something they did that was really innovative and interesting and hopefully will spark other ideas and thoughts about things that you can lead as well. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Dan Chuparkoff. So excited to have you on because not only is AI big, but 2, you are like the nicest guy I've ever met. And 3, your whole value proposition is that you're this understandable AI guy. And I'm not saying our listeners aren't smart, but man, we don't need somebody to talk above us. So, but I want to start, we don't like to start normal. I'd love to hear a story that most people don't know about you instead of just your normal, like, here's how I came to where I am.
Yeah. I think, one thing that I kept very closely guarded to my chest for a long time is that I dropped out of college.
Mm.
And as I reflect back on that whole experience, I've completely reframed how I even think about that. I didn't drop out of college. College was failing me, and it was costing me
Mhm.
tens of thousands of dollars, and it wasn't providing the value that I needed it to provide. I was I graduated high school in '87.
Mm.
And so I was like, in college, the 89, 80, 90, 91, and there's this whole wave of the internet coming. As a technologist, I could see, but it wasn't built into the curriculum of our
Mm.
school at all. University of Florida at the time didn't even have a software engineering major. Like that wasn't even
Wow.
a place. And so, I was learning my stuff on my own and teaching myself, and I got a job to pay the bills because I was trying to make ends meet, and pretty soon, like, finishing college became the least important thing on my list.
Yeah.
And so that's something that really it started to create the foundation of like independent learning for me that I've
Yeah.
ever since then, right? Because the world's changing all the time. And some of our, legacy educational infrastructures can't adapt as quickly as the world needs us to adapt.
I'm seeing that like in real time with my 14-year-old son who is, he's built a computer based on YouTube. He's solved Rubik's cubes, but and also an old soul and sort of sees through the bullshit of what he's learning and is so adept at learning on his own when he's passionate. So I'll be calling you when he probably tells me he's going to drop out of college and be getting advice. But then you went on to work for some really big companies, including Google and McKinsey, which I freaking love because I love pooping on McKinsey a little bit because they're always so pretentious. But they hired a little lad named Dan Chuparkoff without a degree. How did that
Yeah.
all transpire?
Well, so, McKinsey was going through, they've been going through some oscillation between
Mm,
trying to be technically focused, but then also making sure they're not losing their identity as a, independent advisor team. And so, they've sort of gone back and forth a couple times, and I joined in 2016 there when they were realizing that they needed some technologists to lead them through, the next iteration of their life. So I wasn't a consultant. I led an incubator inside of
mm,
McKinsey that built software solutions to make their own consultants a little bit smarter, more powerful, all of that stuff. The first application that we really worked on was for healthcare people.
mm,
The typical consultant, they go on site at a client, they get as much data as they can get their hands on, they put that data into Excel, they then make some PowerPoint slides and some insights or whatever. Um, but there's a fundamental break there in that there's a limit to how much data you can put in Excel.
mm.
So
Yeah,
if you're doing healthcare,
literally.
yeah, if you are doing a healthcare engagement, you can only look at like 2 years of healthcare data for a system of any significant size. And 2 years is not a very long time. Like, you can't see people, having a heart attack and they were recovering, or having a baby and seeing that baby grow up. Not to mention that the mother and the baby have different names and different birth dates, and they're not even really connected in healthcare data. So, all those things were problematic unless you could start importing massively more data and ingesting it without using, a pivot table in Excel. And so, we started bringing some of that to the firm, and it changed how we looked at healthcare, and then we widened that out to look at manufacturing and retail and lots of other businesses too.
I love that. That's cool. I don't know if you know this about me, but I started in the actuarial profession for Aetna, and um, my internship. Literally, the project was, sort of analyzing ICU bed days and the impact on blah 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 blah. And
Yeah.
I am not a technologist. I think I barely survived, but that was the time when I came in, and they were like, "We're learning this thing called Microsoft Access."
Mm.
And I'm not good at technology, but I was good enough about relationships and sitting by people's desks. And I'll never forget 3 days in, I went and slapped like some reports on my boss's desk that were supposed to be like the capstone for the year. And they're like, oh shit, like we got to find another project for you because this was supposed to take all summer.
Right.
Um, so I love that you were in that. And I've seen you speak, AI is obviously the hot, fresh thing, but like you said, you've always been a technologist. Talk to us about how we should think of AI in the framework of a continuum of technology versus just as this like new hairy animal.
Yeah. Right, right. So, in my actual keynote, I started with a story about when I was 17 years old. I had an internship at an architecture firm, and that architecture firm had just gotten AutoCAD, which is computer design
Mhm.
software for architects. Now super common, but back then it was like brand new. And so I had been drawing plans manually in ink on paper
Mhm.
for 3 or 4 months. And then I met the one guy in the office that was using AutoCAD, and he showed me how it worked. And as a kid, the only thing they would really let me do is draw the lines in parking lots. They take a rectangle, and I would like draw these little lines over and over again.
Couldn't mess things up too much if that's what you were responsible for.
Yeah, well, that's what you would think, but, like, you have to have exactly the right amount of parking spaces for building code.
Sure.
And so you have
Mm.
to measure every single one, like every parking lot line is 4 inches wide, and it's gotta be 8
Mm.
feet from the line next to it, and, all these things have to be measured with a little tiny ruler, like, over and over again. So this one guy I meet, and he shows me AutoCAD, and he pulls up a plan, and he drew a parking lot line, and then hit copy, and then paste, 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 paste. And it blew my mind, like, literally, like, we say
Right.
copy paste all the time now, but in
Right.
'87, that was magic.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
for sure.
And so what I realized, that started to reframe the way I looked at
Mm.
new pieces of technology. Like, that learning copy paste in AutoCAD literally made me 1,000 times more productive than I was. It used to take me, 3 days, and then I
Mhm.
could do 10 minutes. So every moment after that, I was looking for these little copy paste moments.
Mm.
And so something that you'll use all the time, like, it'll just be so ingrained in the way you work that you'll know that control C, control V does invokes that thing. AI is gonna be like that too. We're an AI assistant that just, like, jumps into your meeting and says, "Wait, time out. You guys already discussed that before," or, you'll have, an AI person, like, helping you make all your docs that understands your voice. These things are just becoming so ingrained into the way we work that it's changing the way we work as much as copy paste did. And so that's how I want
Mm.
people to think about it. You don't need to know what a neural net is. You don't
Yeah.
need to even care what language model means. All you need to know is that, like, you should maybe use a note taker. The way we search is different now, right? We use things like ChatGPT instead of Bing or Google. That it's just done. Like, we've just switched, and we do it the new way now. And so the faster you can embrace that new way, the more successful you'll be, no matter what your job is.
Yeah, I love that. I I think I was thinking about this, that people are probably in 3 buckets, and maybe they're not mutually exclusive, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like, one bucket is the freaked out, "It'll take my job," and some rightfully so because of what they do, and some because they're alarmists, but,
Mm. Yep.
The second bucket might be the opposite extreme I think of is maybe people that are maybe even a little anxious about the opportunities they may be missing, not personally, but maybe business ventures. I
Mm.
think we all look back on the internet. I learned about it in college and I thought it was the stupidest shit ever. And then I went to a bunch of parties and like got my degree. And then 10 years later, I was like, you dumb idiot. Like,
Right.
you could have been a bazillionaire if you would have like thought a
Yeah.
little bit more in your business information systems class. So there's a little bit of that. I've thought about that like there are probably going to be businesses in 10 years, 5 years, we look back and we go, shit, why didn't we do that? And then somewhere in the middle, which is maybe how to keep up. Like, it's just like, I don't want to fall behind. I don't want to, lose out whether it's my business or that promotion or what have you.
Right, right, right.
If
Um,
Is that
but
about right? Is that how people are sort of
yeah.
thinking? Just I want people on the phone to be like, "Yeah, okay, I'm in one of those," or maybe a couple of those
Yeah, I
buckets.
think I think, yeah, I think the buckets probably aren't mutually exclusive. Some people
Mhm.
might all 3 buckets, but, well, I'll tackle them in the reverse order.
Okay.
The first is, like, some people are feeling like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I feel like I might be getting left behind, or I don't wanna make mistakes, so maybe I should wait for the dust to settle."
Mm.
So some people are choosing to get left behind because they know that the first movers will sometimes make mistakes. Um, so first I'll say I saw a statistic the other day. um, the 3 big algorithms are ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, and Claude from
Mm.
Anthropic. You can use other ones too, but those are the 3 big,
That's
like,
so relieving to hear you say that I've heard of all 3 of those and know what they are. So, okay.
that's
I feel like I'm okay. Check.
and it's also not bad if people haven't tried all 3 of them yet.
Sure.
Like, you try at least one, you probably start with ChatGPT. But I heard that, there are almost 1 billion people using one of those 3 tools weekly.
Mm.
1 billion people is a lot. That's 1
Like,
in 8,
not
right?
even a billion instances, a billion
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, 1 billion actual people.
Wow.
There are only 1.2 billion people that drive cars.
Wow.
So, if you're not one of the people that's using at least ChatGPT once a week, you are starting to drift behind, right? A massive opportunity. So you don't have to completely implement it in your job, change your workflow, figure out what AI agents are going to mean and all that stuff. Just start trying ChatGPT a little bit. Figure out what it does for you, figure out what it's good at, how you talk to it. That will start to get you, moving in the right direction. And then we can talk about where you might go from there.
Can we pause there for a minute on that? So I think a lot of our listeners are leaders. I don't think I know. They are leaders in the sort of the corporate workspace. And I think one of the things they're constantly wrestling with is this nonstop push for financial challenges, as we like to call them, right? Budget cuts, do more with less, can't replace that person that just left. I have a
Mhm.
coaching client that, her boss is leaving end of the year, her director is relocating to Japan, and they're basically like, yeah, none, nothing, none of that's gonna get you any more resources or a raise, right?
Right.
And I think in the past, for the last 10 years, we've just been on this treadmill of like people just do more and do more and do more.
Yeah.
But now there's this lever that I didn't have when I was in the corporate workspace, maybe, right? Which
Right.
is significantly efficient. Before you'd have to go to IT and write a project to do some sort of like, right? Unless you had business owned application programmers,
Here.
whatever. It was like, yes, you could get more efficient, but it probably cost you, $20 million and you didn't. How should leaders who are sitting there going, on one hand, I'm so frustrated, I'm getting asked to do less and more, but on the other hand, if I'm honest, I know there's probably some big hits that we could do to be able to survive more, maybe even reduce our force. Like, and I know it depends on, what their job is, what area they're in, but what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. So, all of that is true. Everything is growing exponentially in the world. We've got, distributed teams now. We've got more tools we're trying to figure out how to use. Our customers expect more from us. Our bosses expect more from us. We, are sending more emails. We're reading more emails, having more meetings. Everything's growing exponentially except for hours in the week
Yeah.
and number of resources that you have. So even if your resources aren't shrinking, which that sucks when your resources you are barely struggling to get by already, and now your resources are shrinking, like that sucks. But even if it's not,
Yeah.
it's still in an unfortunate imbalance, right? Because everything's growing except your resources. So we need to find ways of creating efficiencies. And you're right, in the last 20 years, digital transformations were led by IT. They were long and slow, and they were focused on just taking stuff that was written on paper and making it written in ones and zeros instead. And that might not even have saved you any time.
Mm.
Might have been harder for you because now you have to know some crazy system instead of just writing stuff on pieces of paper. So this new world will allow us to start to create some of those real efficiencies. What I think most people are missing is that you want to create efficiencies in the places that you're actually spending 5 or 6 hours a
Mm.
day doing. Right? People are like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if I could use AI to automatically make PowerPoint slides for me?" And sure, that would be fun, but how many hours a year are you making PowerPoint slides? Right? You do the average person does a couple PowerPoint slides a year,
Oh
maybe?
God, the company I was at, no.
Um,
It
but
was like a huge suck, but yes, I hear what you're saying, like,
but
focus but
it
go.
wasn't 8 hours a day every
Sure,
single week for
right,
months and months and months,
right,
right? So
right.
it's some amount of
And
time
you
where you
can solve that through policy, like, get rid of the fancy PowerPoint. There's other things you can do to reduce
right.
that.
What I'm
Yep.
saying is that is a flashy new thing that has novelty, whereas meanwhile, people have 36 hours of meetings a week.
Yeah.
36 hours of meetings. They're saying the same thing over and over and over again with slightly different stakeholders in the room.
Yeah.
That's actual real efficiency, right? That's something that could create every week in the US, we have 1.5 billion hours spent in meetings.
Mm,
That's a lot of time.
yeah.
If you can make that 5% better, right, you are creating efficiencies. That's like hiring a whole new collection of people for your team, no matter how big, depending on how big your team is.
Yeah.
So we need to cut email down. We need sending and receiving. We need
Mm,
to cut meetings down. When teams have one of the biggest casualties of meeting gloat is when some senior VP somewhere says, "Hey, directors, this is what we have to tell. We need to roll out this strategy, have this discussion with the team." And then those 22 directors all have meetings with their 142
Yeah.
managers.
Yeah.
And those 142 managers each talk to 12 people each in separate meetings. Like that's taking, what could have been a YouTube video,
Mm.
right? And turns it into dozens of hours, millions of dollars in wasted spend. And then the opposite happens. All the team reacts, tell their managers, and the managers tell the directors, and the directors tell the VPs, they tell the senior VPs. And just rolling out the strategy for the beginning of the year takes 6 weeks,
Hmm.
right? And my kids, you have kids, when they want to learn something, they go to YouTube and they watch a video on double speed and they know it in 9 minutes.
Mhm.
Like, though, when our kids are on corporate teams, like they're going to expect to do that.
Mm.
I'm a director. I just made a video, pushed it to all our managers, said, "Hey, make sure your teams watch this. Come back to me with questions."
I love that. The first thing you're thinking about is not what cool, sexy AI tools do we have, but like what are the things that we're wasting time on? And I love that because you're answering the question for my leaders and what I just asked, regardless of solutions. Hey there, it's Erin. I'm just popping in real quick to ask you a question. Is there any chance you know someone who is looking for a keynote speaker for their upcoming event? Look, I know that many event organizers, they struggle to find a speaker who provides both tangible value and business knowledge, but that also lights their audience on fire. And I truly believe there aren't many speakers like me out there who are both former corporate executives and professionally trained speakers. And there's definitely none that roll in with an orange suitcase they unpack with their audience. Trust me on that. I would love nothing more than to bring my message of using authenticity as your strategic career and business advantage to people spinning in your universe, especially if you'd be there. I promise my talks always create an immediate buzz, but not just right after, but for months and years after the event is over. You can learn more about my message, style, and reviews, and share my speaking info by going to beauthenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. That's B, just the letter B, authenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. Or of course, we have it right in the show notes to make it easy for you too. I'm curious, what have you seen, maybe even in the corporate workplace, as you go out? You're a prolific speaker, you're talking to people all the time. Has there been an example recently that somebody told you of how they were using AI within the workplace that you're like, that's freaking awesome?
Yeah, I think, one of the coolest things I saw was, lots of people are starting to see these, meeting note takers, right?
Mhm.
You join Zoom and somebody brought their note taker with you. Maybe you have your own favorite note taker that comes. And those are moderately helpful. Like if later, if I want to remember what I said in this conversation, I could go back to notes and take a look at them individually. But the best use of that I saw was that a company was taking all the notes from all the meetings and putting it into a knowledge base. But they were
Mm.
aggregating all these separate note takers into one big thing that just had a lookup tool. So you could say, like, who
Mm.
knows anything about the economy in Germany? And it would just pop back instantly with results saying, these people just had a conversation about that last week. That
Wow. What platform were they using? Like, what was the
it was
logistics
a
behind
little
that?
bit of their own tool.
Their
They were
own toothpicks and bubble gum to kind of create
Yeah,
something?
so they were using the Otter AI note
Mhm.
taker, right? But
Yep.
then they were taking those feeds which store all the information individually, and they were sucking that into their own knowledge base. They already had a knowledge base. They
Yeah.
already put documents there. They already had a search interface. They barely had to program anything new. All they had to do was, get the note-taking API and just pull every single note that was stored. That's even easier to
Brilliant.
do Copilot, if you're an instance that's using, Teams, and Microsoft Suite, Copilot would let you pull that stuff out as an organization.
That's brilliant, because back to your comment about what are the things that are big time sucks. I worked in a very large corporation, and a lot of the job was the art of knowing who to go to, where to go to get answers. Um, you might have an intranet, but that didn't help you sort of figure out who, what, when. So back to your point, it would be a bunch of meetings and no, you need to go to Sally. She's actually the one. So I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So that's one step toward the thing. My main call to action for leaders is first figure out what's a thing that your team spends, you know, dozens of hours a month doing. And if
Yeah.
it's not, you're not tackling that, then keep looking until you find something that you're spending dozens of hours a month doing.
And I love that because it reminds me of, and this, you're a McKinsey guy, when we would look at potential acquisitions, our CEO would always push back at us and say, no, you need to have the strategy. And then you
Mhm.
have to decide, do we build it? Do we buy it? Do we partner it on it? Right. And so it's the same kind of concept. Instead of saying, okay, what can AI make better? Use it as a catalyst to have the conversations that I always scream about too. Like, what is time suck? Maybe it's even bullshit work that shouldn't be done. Have these conversations to collect where people are spending their time that could either be made efficient, cut out, or automated. And then maybe AI can help you with some of that. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what? Yeah,
Yeah,
love that.
100%. And the like a way I sort of describe it to people as they're thinking through what the bullshit is that should be automated. Like if I said, I can fix a problem for you personally. You work at this company and you have to do all these things, and I can fix that problem for you personally, but it will cost you personally $100 a month.
Mm,
Do you want that problem to go away? If I could say I make your meeting load half, you'd probably say I'd pay for that. But there are other things that are sometimes called paper cuts that are
mm,
irritating, all piled up. They're really really annoying. But that's the thing that took those IT projects years and years to do because they were creating 12 5-minute efficiencies, right? Just to get, barely an hour of time back, and it took years, and then you're like, "Wait, this is all we get for this? We waited years."
yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so that's the third bucket they went first. How to keep up. Um, what about the missed opportunities?
Yeah, I think, that one's hard to parse because one, everyone's lying to you. People people are talking about stuff on social just to be extremist so they get more
Mm,
clicks or sell more ads.
yeah,
People are saying we have AI in our product now so you can buy their product. You don't even know if that means there's a chatbot or some sophisticated regression analysis thing. Like you won't have any way of evaluating those opportunities. So, my own personal strategy is expect that the leaders in the world are the ones that can hire the best AI implementation teams. And those teams are going to build the best AI tools. There will be some exceptions to that. There will be some new things that pop up out of nowhere and invent something new. But, the companies that uh Amazon, for instance, I don't have any Amazon stock right now, but probably ought to. They don't even really have AI things, but most of the world uses Amazon Web Services for their compute. So every software product that you're thinking about buying probably is paying Amazon to run every time you click a button. So whether AI is great or not, Amazon is going to sell compute. And
yeah,
so Google and so is Microsoft. Salesforce is probably going to be the best at creating some AI that engages with your customers automatically, right? Those kinds of things, like YouTube is probably going to be the best automated video, producer
yeah.
organization. You don't really have to look for new stuff. Look at the leaders in the world first, and if you're investing in them already, and you want to expand, then you can take a few small chances, but that's going to be hard unless you really get under the covers and become a user yourself.
And maybe you don't need to get under the cover. I mean, if I think about, technology since the invention of time, at the end of the day, all we care about are you solving my problem and are you solving it better than anybody else's?
Mhm.
And, it was interesting. I did a workshop a couple weeks ago. I did a keynote and followed up with the workshop on my 50% rule. And one of the women there owned her own small business. And she brought up sort of AI and how her competitors were doing it. And she was really anxious because she's older and she's old school and doesn't want to do it.
Mhm.
And the room sort of ultimately coached her to like continue to focus on her business and if there were technologies or solutions to make it easier versus just like having to do it to do it. I don't know what would you have said to her if she said, I feel really anxious that I'm not doing it, but I don't really want to do it, but I'm scared that I need to do it because my competitors are. And
Yeah.
she was her business was a very artsy niche business.
Mhm.
It wasn't a sort of technology based business.
Yeah, so, it's a hard that's a hard question to answer. I think
Mm,
first I would encourage people to not think about technology as if it's an industry or a sector.
yeah,
Everything is technology now, right? It's like, you don't have an accounting business, but you still need to know how to use math sometimes,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And that technology has achieved that status in the world. So, if you have a web property where people buy things from you, then, optimizing that is probably a thing you should care about. If you're getting traffic from the internet, you should know that search and ads are changing fast.
Mm,
There was a blog post from two separate places that suggested that web search traffic to their website was down 80%, right, since February of this year. 80% down is a
huge.
dramatic way people find your business. So if you're requiring, people to find you on the web, the old rules of web marketing are almost gone.
So are
And
they're still looking, but they're looking in maybe a chat GPT, but they're
yeah,
not and that's not registering necessarily as a search, is that
well, two things. It will, uh, either the person's question was answered in the search results at the top of Google search, right?
so they never had to hit it on somebody's
Never
site
had
that
to
would
go
answer it.
to.
Yeah, 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 the summary, got it. Absolutely, yep.
Second case is maybe your answer is in the Google search and there's a link to your site, but actually it's not your site because if you're not first in the ranking now,
Mm,
you might not get mentioned, right? The good news is when people click that link in AI search results, they spend 25 times more time on your site. So the
wow.
traffic that you do get will be better qualified, higher quality
Mm,
search, but you will get way, way, way less of it. The second thing is, I said since February, the AI search results changed. The organic search traffic went dramatically down. AI search results didn't happen in February. They happened last August. AI search results didn't change that. People going to ChatGPT instead of Google caused that,
mm. So it's
right?
not
So
just the
now
way they search, it's there
yeah,
somewhere else.
yeah. So when you go to you should go to as a business owner or a speaker or anybody that cares about marketing, you should go to ChatGPT on someone else's computer or
Mhm.
in incognito mode and search for your industry and see if you're in there at all. Even search for your name and see if ChatGPT even knows who you are.
Mm.
You need to get found that way in the new world of marketing.
But ChatGPT goes out to the internet, like, what is it how do you woo something like a ChatGPT versus a Google these days?
Yeah.
Like, what wine are they into versus Google or gifts?
So gradually the two things are merging together. However, two things changed. The way Google ranks you changed a lot. So your links to your site don't count as much as they used to. We used to be able to, you and I could say, hey, I'll give you a link on my site if you give me a link on your site.
Mm,
It doesn't really matter anymore. You need a link from some sophisticated global authority that links to you, like the New York Times or something like that, right? Link traffic doesn't isn't worth as much as it used to be in
mm,
Google or Bing. I'm not talking about ChatGPT. Secondly, in ChatGPT, they're searching all the world's information. The last version of ChatGPT searched for 13 trillion examples of content. And so your little website that has 4 or 5 pages is in that 13 trillion sea, but you need a lot more content. You need lots and lots and lots and lots of content, not just blog posts, but like just more content. How do you help people in uh, in banking? How do you help people in HR? How do you help people that are, independent business owners? How do you help? You just need all that stuff to start getting noticed in the
Mm.
sea of AI search. That and all of this is hidden, so part of this is my own speculation, but I'm pretty sure volume helps a lot.
Volume helps a lot, and that's across all platforms, your website, YouTube,
Yeah,
socials, et cetera, et
and
cetera.
yeah, and YouTube might be exceptionally helpful right now because
Yeah.
of all the content you could make, YouTube or other video places that are public, um, uh, they have views and date and
Yeah.
like, number of watches.
It's all right
People
there.
It's all prioritizing the videos for you. So if you only make 5 videos, AI can see exactly which of those it should scan.
Mm.
And all the other content you make on your website, it doesn't have that kind of prioritization. So I think videos have an unfair advantage that you could capitalize on.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, for me personally, I've just started, hitting that harder again. Um, I'm selfish. I like to get things out of this interview for myself too, not just my peeps. So this whole AI is going to change the way we work. What do you see in your own perspective the biggest changes in the next couple of years?
Um, I think the biggest change that you can already see is the impact of high quality translation. Now, if you here are an American customer that has some amount of people that speak Spanish in your market, you can now create a Spanish version of your site, and it was way easier.
Yeah, and that used to be so hard, right?
Yeah, right, and that's fine. You write a blog post, and you also want to put the Spanish version out there. That was hard. You needed a translator or a linguist or somebody. Um, that is already happening quickly. You can instantly translate into other languages. Google and Apple in the last 2 weeks just rolled out real-time live meeting translation, where I can talk to somebody
Mm,
and I just hear their voice, but speaking English for me and vice versa. That's
huge.
massive. Those are some things where a lot of people that hear what we just said just now will say, "Yeah, but I don't really need to speak Spanish for my customers. I'm local.
Mm,
I'm mostly American," whatever your rationale is. What they're missing is all the people that don't speak English now can speak English, and they're creating content every day on YouTube and LinkedIn.
yeah, so your competition's getting
Right, right,
bigger.
right. 6.6 billion people bigger, and that's gonna make it massively harder to get heard on LinkedIn. You could see it already, and that's a thing that most people aren't paying attention to. So,
Got it.
you know, teams will become more global, content will get, lost in a sea of other, less authentic content, and standing out will be harder.
Hey guys, Erin here. Stop, 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 stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me, they get noticed more than me, they have better luck than me, they're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which by the way is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things. So you're the AI guy, I'm the authenticity queen, right? And part of my story is that, if you thought business was inauthentic and samey before, uh, welcome to the world of companies being able to push a button and then wondering why they don't stand out. And so, when I first started on the authenticity kick, it was, quite frankly, it was more about leadership, career growth, interpersonal skills. But over the last couple of years, my real passion is about how you can use authenticity to stand out as a company and not say the same bullshit and have your value proposition, your sales process, and all this stuff. And some of that can be automated, some of it can't. So if people are wrestling with the question of like, I want to be AI heavy, but Jesus Christ, the last thing I want to do is fit in and not stand out. And what's your biggest tips on how you use it, but then maybe become more authentic than others so that you can stand out?
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of people that overuse AI and use it to say stuff that millions of other people are also just saying. When you are trying to say something out there in the world, there's three parts of that process.
Yeah.
First, you have to think of an interesting, unique, weird concept that you want to share.
Right.
Second, you want to write the body of that content. Third, you want to polish it and make sure it's great and clear and effective and in your voice. As a person that wants to preserve their authenticity, you probably should keep two of those things. Out of those three things, give one of them to AI. Maybe you like AI's polish because you have a tendency to ramble on and on. That's my favorite angle. Maybe you want AI as the brainstorming partner that gives you ideas, and you want to bring your own solutioning to the thing. You don't use AI as a brainstormer and as a polisher, because then if that's the case, other people ask ChatGPT and they'll get the same answer as you.
I love that, Dan, because you're right. Those are the main three phases. And for each person, there might be a different one that they need more help on. But if you curate two of the three are sort of you,
Mhm.
I love it. It's almost the 50% rule, but like the 2/3 rule.
Awesome.
I love that. So, what is your most unique way you use it? Like, so we know that the meeting translators and all that, you can write something and stuff, but like, what's the one hidden gem that you've been using that you think, others in general could steal from you?
Yeah, I mean, I can't not talk about how helpful having notes for almost every single conversation in the last 18 months is.
Mm,
Having a note taker so that when I'm about to do an event, I can rewatch the notes from the meeting I had 4 months ago. Like I wouldn't remember half that stuff. That's really helpful. I can look at trends over the year to see like how is the audience's perception about in my industry changing. What should I start bringing in that's starting to age out because people know those things already. Those things are helpful. So first and foremost, use ChatGPT or one of the others as a search engine replacement.
Mm.
Start asking it questions. When you used to go to Google, go to ChatGPT. That's first and foremost the baseline. Second, start looking at note taking and how that can help you create a better history of the decisions you've made, the things you learned, what your action items are. Like all those, AI is a better note taker than you. If you're still beyond that, then start looking at like, okay, what is my body of work? Let's put everything I've written in the last year into a single project in Google
Claude
Gen
or something, or yeah.
somewhere, right? And
Mhm.
and let's see, like, how have my thoughts changed? Like, what are my gaps? What could I
Mm.
make better? What's already better that I sort of just gradually didn't realize got way better? Start having a conversation about your body of expertise with your favorite AI assistant.
I love that too, because I would say, even if it's not through AI, that's a conversation you need. And I don't care what industry, whether you're in the corporate
Right.
workplace, especially if in the corporate workplace, because Lord knows people don't take the time to stop and reflect as much because they don't usually have it, right? They're running to all those damn meetings.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I think that's a great example of like, okay, step one, have that conversation, whether you use AI or not, like always be pausing every couple months and thinking about, if you're in the corporate world, like what has resonated meeting, what meetings have gone well, what haven't, how have, you've been able to influence in certain places and not others, like take a breath, think. But then, yeah, if you have this data and information that's more easily accessible, why not bring that in there as well?
right, right, right. And this will be the fastest transformation that the world's ever gone through. So, as you take a look at ways you could reinvent the way you do things at work, whatever that might be, um, understand that you're going to be flipping things out way faster than you did 10 years
Mm,
ago.
mm,
Because, maybe every month look for one way you could use AI to make your life better.
okay, yeah,
And if you're not sure what thing to try this month, ask ChatGPT at the beginning of the month. What's
yeah.
one thing I could do to make my life better? And it'll give you choices, and that's
Oh,
great.
so meta. I love that. All right, two final questions we always ask. Of our interviewees. The first is buck that story. So we love this concept of like, what is a time where you said buck that, i.e., you bucked the norm, went against the grain. Obviously, dropping out of school might have been one of those, but good things happened because of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. I think dropping out of school for sure was one of the things that changed the trajectory of my life, like realizing that I needed to take responsibility for my
Mm,
own future, right? And no one else is going to create my future for me, or they might, but I might not like the one they create for me, so I was going to need to do that. Other possible things, let's see. I um wow,
What about
wow.
this new intro
Yeah, yeah,
campaign
yeah.
that you're doing?
That's a great thing. Yeah, I talk about reinventing the way we do things in the world, and so I wanna set a good example of that reinvention right out of the gate. And as some of you have seen, I'm a speaker, and the first thing that happens in an event is some random stranger that I never met before reads my intro piece of paper, and they mess it up. They can't say my last name right. They
Mm,
try to ib a bunch of weird new things in there as well, and it's not as powerful. People are so distracted that they're not even really paying attention anymore.
yeah.
So I use some AI video to make my own intro, and now I have 5, characters from history, Sherlock Holmes and Tesla and Leonardo da Vinci and, a female version of P.T. Barnum because there's not enough female characters in our history, and so I wanna change
I love
that.
that.
So I have those people intro me now, and it's dramatically more powerful. The energy builds as I go
Yeah.
through, demonstrates reinvention, like, right out of the gate for me, and so that's one of my new favorite.
I love that. I love that. And when you were teeing it up at one of our sessions, I'm like, I totally get where he's going with this. This is great. Stamp of approval. So before I ask the last question, which I promise is much easier, where can people connect with you, find you, follow you?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on the internet, if you can spell my last name, Chu, Chupark, off. And LinkedIn is my most social active platform. So if you follow me there, I will connect with me, and I will accept your connection request. I love growing two-way relationships. And so connect with me there. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. My last name is my handle for everything. And I would love to start a conversation with all of you and help you through your AI transformation. However I can be helpful, please let me know.
I love it. Yeah, we're the same. I always say if you can spell my name, you can find me because I'm the only one out there. It's just that spelling part that, you know. Do you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? I have one more letter than you, but
Yep.
still freaks people out, right?
Yep.
Um, what's your last one tip for people to make work suck less?
Uh, I think remember that most of what we're doing is actually relationship building at
Mm,
work. Building relationships with our team, with our people, with our bosses, with our customers. All of this other stuff is like the information management that's getting in the way of the relationship people. And so, little by little, AI is going to start doing some of that information management. And remember, like, actually, that's great. Let AI take all that minutia away so you can focus on building great relationships with people that you like and enjoy being around. And that's my
have
biggest.
you used that? That's powerful. Like AI is about getting rid of the information management so you have more time to focus on relationship management. Like that
Yeah.
immediately made me feel so much more hopeful and excited about this world of AI than anything else I've read in the last
Yeah,
year.
it's I think, little by little, that's becoming a bigger part of my story. I do, I do create a very clear line in my longer keynote about, the 6 things that we do at work, and how 3 of them AI will be great at, and the other 3 take our imagination. And, relationships should probably be a stronger part of that story, but,
Love it.
yeah, anyway, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy, busy man. Dan is on the road nonstop, helping people understand AI. Hopefully, he'll come to a company or an organization near you. But thank you so much in the meantime for sharing your knowledge with us here.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here, and let me know how I can be helpful in the future.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.